ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। In this session we'll be discussing from a new chapter, 7th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam. The 7th chapter is entitled The Son of Drona Punished. And we'll be beginning with the first verse. Shaunaka uvacha nirgate narade suta bhagavan badarayanaha shrutavamstad abhipretam tatakim akarod vibhuhu. The meaning of this verse is, Rishi Shaunaka asked, O Suta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narad Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? If you remember the conversation between the sages of Naimisharanya headed by Shaunaka Rishi and Suta Goswami is the beginning of the first chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam, the opening of the Bhagavatam. So, seeing the eagerness of the sages to hear about Krishna, Suta Goswami decided to recite the Bhagavatam, which he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami. So, before reciting the Bhagavatam, Shaunaka Rishi asked many other questions apart from the first 6 questions to Suta Goswami. So, in response to questions asked by Shaunaka Rishi, who is the representative of the sages of Naimisharanya, Suta Goswami is answering. Now here, Shaunaka Rishi is asking to continue. What did Vyasadeva do after he heard everything about Narad Muni's previous birth, how Narad Muni actually got enlightenment from the Bhakti Vedantas, how he practiced going to a sacred place, the meditation on the Supreme Lord, how he had a brief glimpse of the darshan of the Lord, then the Lord spoke to him and then he became perfect. And when he quit his body in his previous life, he changed from a material body to a completely spiritual body. And in that spiritual body now, in this day of Brahma, he is born as the son of Brahma in his same transcendental form. And he travels everywhere simply singing the glories of the Supreme Lord while vibrating on his transcendental instrument, the Veena, which is given to him by Krishna himself. And in this way, he is himself completely enlivened, and he enlivens others also. Now, after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? That's the question now Shaunaka Rishi is raising. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in this chapter, the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavatam is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. Now Bhagavatam begins from the point where the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, Parikshit, see the central personalities for the recitation of the Bhagavatam, first time, is Parikshit Maharaj, who inquired from Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami learned the Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva compiled the Bhagavatam after hearing about Narada's instructions on Bhagavatam. So that is the link. Now the narration will begin by Suta Goswami about the Bhagavatam, how Parikshit was saved in the womb of his mother, and that is the description of the birth and activities of Parikshit Maharaj, which was inquired to Suta Goswami by Shaunaka Rishi. Now this reason for Parikshit being saved in the womb of his mother was because the cause was Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, who killed the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. That is the incident that's going to be narrated in this chapter, in the 7th chapter. The son of Drona punished by whom? By Arjuna, because the son of Drona, Ashwathama, he killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi towards the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance and devotion. Vyasadeva sat in meditation and following Narad Muni's instructions to compile Bhagavatam, he realized the entire truth about Krishna, which is going to be described by Vyasadeva while compiling the Bhagavatam, and Vyasadeva is going to teach it to his own son Shukadeva Goswami, who is already a liberated soul. So we will hear now systematically about Vyasadeva realizing the whole truth by trance in devotion. The second verse, Suta Uvacha Brahmanadyam Saraswatyam Ashrama Paschime Tate Shamya Prasa iti Prokta Rishinam Satravardhanaha. The meaning of this second verse of the same 7th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam, Sri Suta said, Suta Goswami is now responding to the question asked by Shaunaka Rishi. On the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation at Shamya Prasa, which enlivens the transcendental activities of the sages. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, for spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati river is especially suitable for this purpose. And there is the ashram of Vyasadeva at Shamya Prasa. So, the place where Vyasadeva's ashram was located is a very, very holy place, a sacred place, most suitable for spiritual activities. And it is on the western bank of the Saraswati river. It is at the foothills of the Himalayas. And even other places there, devotees do visit that place. It's called Vyasa Gufa, the cave of Vyasadeva. That's the literal meaning in Hindi, Vyasa Gufa. So that place, that is the place where Vyasadeva's ashram is located, and Vyasadeva sat there and engaged in meditation. And when he was and had reached Samadhi, he was able to actually realize the entire truth about the absolute personality of Godhead Krishna. That will be described now. Now, Srila Vyasadeva was a householder. That's how he had a son, Shukadeva Goswami. Yet his residential place is called an ashram. So what is ashram? An ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. Ashram is a residential place, but it is a spiritually surcharged place because it is the most suitable spiritual shelter. For any transcendentalist, it is necessary to reside in a place where spiritual culture is foremost. That means a transcendentalist does not live in any place simply for engaging in some sense enjoyment. A transcendentalist voluntarily gives up sense enjoyment in order to cultivate spiritual life. So Vyasadeva, of course, is perfect because he is the incarnation, empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord for compiling all the Vedic literature. And he has appeared for this purpose specifically. He is also an incarnation of the Lord, Shakya Vesha Avatar. So he has no need to practice, but nonetheless, to set an example, he is situated in his ashram and he is performing meditation in order to fix his mind on the absolute personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, and realize the whole subject matter of the Bhagavatam before compiling. Srila Prabhupada further explains, it does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a mendicant. Mendicant means somebody who is a renunciant, who is a tapasvi, who is a renounced order of life. The whole Varnashrama system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashram. Varna ashrama, 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. This defines the occupational duty of 4 different classes of people in the civilized human society. Apart from these 4 Varnas, there are 4 ashramas. What are the 4 ashramas? Brahmachari ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, Sannyasa ashram. These are 4 stages of gradual progress towards the ultimate goal of self-realization, while spiritual culture is very prominent in each of these stages of ashram life. All are spiritual shelter. Brahmachari stays in the house of the spiritual master, the Guru, Guru Kula, and he is taught the Vedic knowledge. And then Grihastha, householder, he lives with his wife and children, family life, but he is engaged in spiritual activities, even as a householder. And of course, after completing his duty as a householder, he hands over charge of the house to his grown-up son or some other guardian, and he leaves home and goes away to the forest or a holy place to intensify his spiritual practice and become completely engaged in activities of self-realization, which is the ultimate goal of life, to realize the self. And finally, sannyasa ashram is when one is completely renounced and one simply engages exclusively in spiritual activities. Either one has already realized or one is just waiting to perfect his realization, especially in the sannyasa ashram. So this means, Prabhupada says further, spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, the grihasthas, the vanaprasthas and sannyasis all belong to the same mission of life, namely realization of the Supreme. See, important thing is self-realization means I am also self, individual self, Jivatma. But there is a Supreme Self, the Supreme Paramatma, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So realization of Krishna is the ultimate self-realization. Therefore, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is a formality on the strength of renunciation. Different rules and different formalities are there, but ultimately all are meant for ultimate realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of practical renunciation. The sannyasis set the example by practicing the high standard of renunciation, which is befitting them who are completely dedicated for spiritual practice or spiritual life. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.